Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about tinnitus. Tinnitus is a buzzing in the ear. It's often caused by loud noise exposure or hearing degradation due to aging. About 10 to 20% of the world's population have tinnitus. About 2% have a severe case of tinnitus that really affects their ability to function in the world and their ability to do things. But so that's about 10% of the people, 10 to 20% of the people who have tinnitus have a severe case, and about the rest have either a moderate or a mild case of tinnitus. But even a mild case can be annoying. A moderate case can affect how you function in life also, to a greater extent than a mild case would. And so people often avoid loud noises. They often have trouble sleeping. They often have, sometimes in severe cases, they have trouble concentrating during the day because they're constantly hearing this kind of loud pitched or buzz or noise or it comes in various styles of noise that you phantom sounds that you kind of hear when there's nothing. There's actually no sound there. But today we're going to be going through ways of mitigating a severe or an established case of tinnitus. So we'll go through ways of reducing your symptoms of tinnitus. It's not quite a cure, but there are significant ways you can reduce the severity of your tinnitus using proven techniques from the science literature, all of which will be written below. So if you want to skip the video, you can go down into the description and read the solutions to tinnitus problems, and hopefully you glean something useful there. But we will be going through them here in a PowerPoint. And me talking through it. And we'll begin with ways of reducing established case, and then we'll talk about ways of preventing tinnitus getting worse or starting if you get exposed to a loud noise event. So there are ways of mitigating damage right after the exposure to a loud noise event that helps. But we'll get started with ways of helping an established case of tinnitus. The first way I will bring up is to tap the back of your head. I'm not sure if you can see this, but basically you just tap the back of your head where your auditory cortex is, and you can tap around your ears, and you tap, 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 and you can do that for 30 seconds or a minute. And that sometimes it calms the auditory nerve where they think this phantom sound is generated, because the auditory cortex isn't receiving the proper signal from the ear, the inner ear, and a lack of signal gets sent to the auditory cortex that sometimes then creates a phantom sound because it's misreading what it's getting from the auditory cortex. So they think the problem is generated by the auditory cortex from a little bit of hearing loss in the inner ear due to hair cell loss, inner ear hair cell loss, most likely. There are other ear exercises you can do, so there's a link in the description. Austin Go does a fantastic ear exercise routine that a lot of people have received hearing tranquility and a lack of an improvement in their tinnitus from doing his ear exercises. I will mention two other exercises here. One is an eustachian tube exercise. So there's a tube in your ear that drains out earwax and stuff from your inner area of your ear, and that tube can get blocked, and you can unblock that tube by pulling. I don't know if you can see my ear here, but you pull perpendicular to your head. So you pull this way, away from your head. You give it short, rapid pulls, perpendicular to your head, to a quick and fast, and that will empty your eustachian tube, and that can be a cause of tinnitus. So it's worth trying that exercise also. Another exercise you can do is, sometimes it's caused by jaw issues, so you can exercise your jaw and yawn and pull your jaw and massage it a little bit around the edges, and that sometimes helps calm a case of tinnitus. If you have a case of tinnitus, often people have trouble sleeping, so I recommend that, and I recommend pink noise is the best kind of background noise. It's a static noise that has the same frequencies as nature, and it's often better than actual nature video or white noise or brown noise in helping people fall asleep. So I do recommend getting a pink noise generator if you have trouble sleeping, which is quite common in tinnitus sufferers. Sometimes people notice it more at night than during the day when they're trying to calm down and rest. And some people will listen to TV in the background. Some people will put on white noise or brown noise, but I do recommend pink noise if you have trouble sleeping. A supplement you can take is zinc. So zinc is quite promising. It leads to about a 42% reduction in subjective tinnitus severity. The subjective aspect of tinnitus, the amount you thought it was affecting you, goes down by 42%. The actual loudness of the tinnitus wasn't affected in what people reported back to the study's authors, the scientists running the experiment. They used 50 milligrams of zinc once a day for 2 months. That is likely too much zinc, so I would recommend 25 milligrams for 6 to 8 weeks, which about 2 months. You can do 25 milligrams, and that should reduce your symptoms of tinnitus quite a lot. I imagine more so if you're deficient in zinc. If you're eating a healthy diet, if you're having a multivitamin every day, you might not notice as much of a difference, but I would recommend giving zinc a try if you have an established case of tinnitus, because it has been proven to help. And it's not something you have to constantly do, but the benefits of taking that zinc should remain with you for quite a while after you stop taking the zinc, after that 2-month period of taking zinc. So B12, another supplement you can take. It reduces tinnitus severity in the 50% of sufferers who are deficient in B12. So about 50% of people with tinnitus don't have enough B12 in their system. So if you take some, there's about a 28% reduction in the loudness of tinnitus. Another thing you can try is yokogan sand, or yaigan sand. It's a Japanese herbal mixture, and it actually cures tinnitus according to one research paper I read out of Japan. And so it's likely worth trying. I'm not sure if it will cure your case of tinnitus, but you can look up yokogan sand or yaigan sand and buy some and give it a try. I don't think it's particularly dangerous, so I assume you would it would be worth trying and seeing if you have a benefit. And if you do have a benefit, drop a comment and share your findings, because there hasn't been much research put out on the subject besides one kind of anecdotal research paper based out of Japan. Another supplement you can take is melatonin, based on subjective grading of tinnitus. Tinnitus perception diminished by 40% in patients treated with melatonin. So melatonin reduces your perception of tinnitus by 40%. I recommend 0.3 to 1 milligram pills of melatonin. Don't take 5 milligrams or 10 milligrams because the melatonin will stay in your system into the next day and affect your ability to function the next day. So you want to take 0.3 milligrams to 1 milligram of melatonin as the ideal dose, or you could split a 5 milligram pill. Maybe that would be acceptable, but don't take too much melatonin, but it is once again a 40% reduction. In this study, they added sulpiride. They tried using sulpiride too, which led to a 56% reduction in perception. That's an antipsychotic. I do not recommend taking an antipsychotic for tinnitus. That's unnecessary. And it reduced by 81% in patients treated with sulpiride and melatonin. Another thing you can try is mindfulness-based meditation with a focus on sounds. So I think that's using gongs and focusing on the sound and meditating to it. And that led to a 40% reduction in tinnitus symptoms. And once again, all the literature will be linked below, so you can check it out for yourself. And results persisted 6 months after the intervention. The intervention was 8 2-hour sessions done weekly. So that's 8 weeks of 2-hour sessions. Another supplement you could potentially try if you could find it was the study that showed that Gushan Pian, a Japanese or Chinese herbal mixture, a study done by the Chinese military, showed that there was a 59.5% reduction in tinnitus in a double-blind trial, 85% reduction in trouble sleeping, with no patients having severe insomnia. Unfortunately, I could not find a way to purchase this supplement, and the linked studies didn't clarify what was in the mixture, and there was only one researcher who did the project, so I'm not betting the bank on this being what you can do, because basically no one knows how to do it except the researchers who conducted the experiment. And I think I tried to reach out to them, but I don't think I received a reply back. So it's a potential, but it has some unknowns associated with it. Another thing you can do is this linear electrical stimulation device that stimulates the vagus nerve through the tongue while music is playing. It led to average reduction was 30% in tinnitus. It's somewhat similar to tapping the back of the head because it simulates the auditory nerve. But the linear electrical stimulation to the tongue with music playing is actually more effective than just tapping the back of your head. So lots of things you can do. A low level red and infrared laser therapy plus ultrasound. So they shine a red light and an infrared laser in the ear, at the ears, and an ultrasound and around the ears, I presume, and that helps tinnitus with a 35% reduction. Acupuncture is 10 to 50% effective, though 20% could be placebo. You can see an acupuncturist. I'm sure they know which focal points to apply their therapy in order to reap the benefits for tinnitus sufferers, because it's quite a common ailment I'm sure they look at. But again, it's a 10 to 50% improvement, though 20% was placebo. GABA supplementation is another thing you can do. It's similar to a benzodiazepine, which also helps tinnitus. Same method of action. It helped 14% in one study, 60% in another, and 32% saw some improvement in another study. Taking GABA is just a safer way of getting the effects of a benzodiazepine, so it's a natural method that's not addictive and helps calm your brain using that same method. Another thing you can do is a hearing aid that masks the tinnitus, that plays a sound over the tinnitus, and you wear a hearing aid, and it helps quite a bit. It's a 30% improvement to your tinnitus severity index score, though 20% could be placebo. Another thing you can do is lipoic acid helps 30% of people by 10 to 25%, used with vitamin C and rapinamide in older adults in this study. Taurine helps rats with tinnitus. It helps restore calcium ion flow in the ear, works in 12% of people. There's a study on rats below that the taurine helped, and it should help in 12% of people who have reduced calcium ion flow in the ear. Maritime pine bark extract helps tinnitus caused by low blood flow in inner ear. So you can try some maritime pine bark extract. It helps blood flow in your ear. Chamomile tea or black cumin may also help, especially if you have trouble sleeping. Chamomile tea and black cumin often help you fall to sleep. There's another electronic stimulation device that's not yet available in the USA. I believe I have some details linked below on that. You can check it out, but it's going through FDA approval, I believe. Okay, this is kind of part 2. Protecting your ears after being exposed to loud noise. So if you do have tinnitus, or if you go to a loud rock concert, or you get exposed accidentally to a loud noise event, there are things you can do to prevent that damage from occurring to your ears. So we'll go through some of those ways of preventing damage after being exposed to loud noise in this next part. So magnesium prevents hearing damage after loud noise exposure, and it's about 60% effective, and 80% for depot. And depot is a way of measuring the emissions of sound from your ear when you listen to you play a noise, and then you listen for noise coming out of your ear. And that is the depot measurement, which is a very sensitive test that listens for inner ear hair noises and other noises coming from the inner ear. And it's actually a more effective way of measuring tinnitus than just doing regular hearing tests. So if you can do a depot test, it's a more accurate way of measuring hearing damage that could cause tinnitus. Magnesium works 10 days after noise exposure. In this study, they took 122 milligrams once a day, and it helps the mitochondria. But it's not an antioxidant. B12, if you have B12 in your system, it's almost a 50% reduction in damage after noise exposure. So you have to have it in your system before the noise exposure. So it's a good idea to take a multivitamin or something with some B12 in it, just in case you accidentally get exposed to loud noise. Vitamin E offers more than 50% protection up to 5 days after exposure, which was even better pre-exposure. And it works through an antioxidant pathway. Acetyl L-carnitine, which is amino acid, helps post-noise exposure, should be taken 1 to 4 hours after exposure. 50% plus protection from damage. It may work differently than antioxidants. It might have a mitochondria effect, but it could be different than magnesium. NAC is a 35% protection if taken within 4 hours of exposure, and it works through an antioxidant pathway. Then furoxamine mesylate. Not sure if it works post-exposure, but it definitely works pre-exposure. And not yet available is a neuroinflammation pill that stops the tumor necrosis factor alpha, NMFA, that disrupts communication between neurons. And it's a pill that helps after exposure. And there are medications that currently reduce this necrosis factor, and Humira is an example of that, and rituximab is also another example. So you could potentially worth exploring if Humira reduces your tinnitus damage after exposure. But there are lots of other things you can do, and Humira is quite expensive, so I'd look at some of the other things first. But maybe rituximab is cheaper, so it might be worth trying these things. For keeping your ears in good health, just general good ear health maintenance, avoid loud noises, that's obvious. But if you take fish oil, it reduces age-related hearing loss by 1.2 decibels over 3 years. So that fish oil helps reduce your loss of hearing due to age. Folate deficiency has a long-term correlation in age-related hearing loss, and so does B12. These affect homocysteine levels, causing more free radicals. So if you have a deficient of folate or B12, that's not good. And supplementing, again, perhaps with a multivitamin would be a good thing to do to keep your homocysteine levels down. Other tips you can do is a depot test. I mentioned that a little bit. 50% of people it detects tinnitus, so it's something you can potentially do. And garlic may help after an infection. So if you have an infection in your ear, that can cause tinnitus. And if you take some garlic, that can potentially mitigate the effects of an infection that causes tinnitus caused by an infection. What not to do? I wouldn't recommend Xanax or clozapam or any other benzodiazepines. It's better to take GABA if you want to go that route, though they are somewhat effective. They've at 14 to 60% reduction in symptoms. Sulpiride helps. I mentioned that earlier. 56% reduction. Again, would not recommend that. Remeron is an antidepressant with sedating properties. You could take that before bed. It is a 32% reduction in loudness, and it helps sleeps. But this would be the safest of the three, but again, I would not recommend it. But there are lots of other things you could try in this video before you would want to try some of these things, because there is an addiction quality and there are more side effects to these type of synthetic drugs that are not naturally found in the body. So it's better to naturally work with the body's system and jiggle things that way than to add a new molecule to the body that the body hasn't seen and that's foreign to the body. All right, so that is the presentation. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope you gleaned some knowledge from it. I will be making more videos, so I'm sorry for not making videos for the last year and a half or so, and but I'm have some time on my hands, and I will be making some videos over the next couple of weeks, next couple of days, hopefully. And thank you again for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. That's very important to get the word out. Hopefully the information is worthy of being shared in terms of the quality of the information. So, and hopefully this information will help reduce your symptoms of tinnitus and help you lead your best life you can lead while dealing with a case of tinnitus. And I know some of the tips have really helped my case of tinnitus, so I wish you well, and thanks again for watching. Take care.